Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 2022 fantasy football best ball draft over on Underdog. We're going to be doing a big board but super flex draft, so this is going to be a draft that includes 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, super flex, flex, and 12 bench spots. If you are not familiar to what a super flex is, it is a flex, but that does end up including a quarterback, so you can play quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or a tight end in that spot every week. A super flex league is going to put a massive emphasis on drafting the quarterback position because the quarterback is just so much more important because you can be playing 2 quarterbacks every single week. If you're not familiar to what best ball is, we're just going to be drafting this team and then you just forget about it because while this team could end up winning you a lot of money, you don't actually have to do anything in season. Underdog, the website, will just go ahead and put your best lineup in every single week out of the players you draft. So it's kind of the most fun part about fantasy football, which is drafting, and then you don't have to worry about making any trades, picking anyone up off of the waiver wire, anything like that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into this big board but super flex draft. If you guys want to go ahead and do a draft just like this, then all you got to do is go ahead and head over to Underdog, make an account if you are new, and then deposit using promo code AWESOMO, and that will get you a $100 deposit match bonus, meaning if you deposit $100, they will give you an additional $100 into your account to be used. So then you will have $200 on the website, even if you only deposit $100. Something I also want to talk about, guys, is that things are going to be changing on my YouTube channel very soon. Now, if you are worried about that, you're a little bit nervous, don't be worried, don't be nervous at all. I signed with Osmo.com as a full-time employee, so this channel is going to be changing a little bit. If you want to make sure that you get all my fantasy football videos, if you're not interested in best ball, now I think that you guys will be interested in best ball if you continue to watch these videos, then just subscribe to the Osmo Fantasy Football channel. I'll be posting so many videos on there in the off-season, in the regular season, so that you guys can win your 2022 Fantasy Football Championship. If you are not as interested in the best ball stuff, make sure you're subscribed there, and make sure you're subscribed there anyways because you can get the most videos from me on there. I will link that down below in the description, so please make sure you guys do check that out. So again, guys, it does sometimes take a little bit to fill, so I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward to when we actually get into the draft. All right, so the draft has filled. We got about 30 seconds until the draft starts. So to begin, kind of before we even get on into the draft, my strategy here at number 3 overall, since this is a super flex draft, things are going to look drastically different in the first couple of rounds as people are going to look to hammer in on the quarterback position. It would not surprise me at all if multiple people went with 2 quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds. That is a strategy that is certainly viable here. So with where we are looking right now, I'm probably going to be able to be taking the 3rd best quarterback off the board unless someone takes Jonathan Taylor with either the 1st or the 2nd pick, which is entirely possible. But if I'm number 1 overall, I'm taking either Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. It's kind of up to choice at this point. These are 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. They are on amazing teams in the NFL. They both have huge arms. Josh Allen does have a little bit more likelihood to run the ball. He doesn't run too much in the regular season because I think he realizes that he doesn't want to get fucking hurt, right? So he kind of chills out on it. But in the playoffs, which don't count for fantasy football, in the real life playoffs, this guy's just rushing the ball left and right, so he certainly can do that. So Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes were the first 2 picks of the draft. And now we're sitting here at number 3. And the question is, who is your number 3 overall quarterback in 2022 fantasy football? Should I go with Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow? Here, we're going to go ahead and go a little bit different. I think most people would take Justin Herbert. Here, we're going to go ahead and go with Lamar Jackson. Do I think that Lamar Jackson is on the same echelon a quarterback like Josh Allen, like Patrick Mahomes? No. But in terms of fantasy football, that rushing upside is just so important. This Baltimore Ravens team is still very good. Lamar Jackson was still a very solid fantasy quarterback when he was healthy last year, so I'm still pretty sold in on Lamar Jackson there. You definitely could have went Herbert. You could have went Kyler Murray. You kind of could go any way there. Some people may even take Aaron Rodgers. Now, obviously, right now as we are recording this, the kind of locked and loaded in of him being a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers doesn't seem 100% locked in, right, is what I'm kind of trying to say there. There's definitely some chance that he ends up being the quarterback of some different team, but I still do think he will end up probably being a first-round pick here as he goes at the 109. So after we went with Lamar Jackson, came Kyler Murray, Cooper Kupp, Justin Herbert, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Rodgers. I am very interested to see, as we do more of these underdog best ball drafts, to figure out where Christian McCaffrey ends up going, because I personally, it's not that I'm not confident in Christian McCaffrey, it's that I am just very nervous about the fact that this guy may not be able to stay healthy. Now, I understand I'm about as much of a doctor as fucking Johnny Sins, so at the end of the day, I can't really just plant my flag in the fact that I think Christian McCaffrey is going to get hurt, because some of those things are up to chance. But at the end of the day, I just don't know if I'm at the 108 and Derrick Henry is available, Austin Eckler is available. I just don't know if I could personally pull the trigger on Christian McCaffrey. He's going to end up being a first-round pick. I just think he got picked a little bit high compared to a super flex draft where so many quarterbacks went early on in the draft. So after we saw Christian McCaffrey get picked there at the 108, Aaron Rodgers came off the board, followed by Joey B, Joe Shiesty, Joe Burrow, Dickie, Dak Prescott, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Russell Wilson. Jamar Chase is going to be a first-round pick, I believe, in basically every single draft. I think he's going to be the number 2 wide receiver off the board after Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, to me, seems like he is the locked and loaded wide receiver number 1. And then at running back, there's definitely some debate for me in terms of redraft best ball leagues. I definitely want to either be taking Jonathan Taylor or Derrick Henry as the number 1 running back in fantasy football. I think just based upon youth factor, I'm definitely a little bit more comfortable taking Indianapolis Colts running back Jonathan Taylor. But at the same time, while Derrick Henry got hurt, that man probably would have ran for 2,000 yards easily last season if he didn't end up getting hurt. So that is also kind of something to bring up. So after Justin Jefferson, we saw Russell Wilson, Derrick Henry, Matthew Stafford, Trey Lance, Justin Hurts, Austin Eckler, and we're about to be up in 2 picks. So looking at the quarterback position, things start to get a little bit scary very quickly, which is why if you're at the number 3 pick, the number 1, the number 2 pick, if you don't take a quarterback, you are going to be at a huge disadvantage at the quarterback position. Now, maybe you can load up on 2 star-studded wide receivers, a star-studded running back, and a great wide receiver. You could do that, but here at pick number 210, I don't feel comfortable taking any of these quarterbacks here. They're just not my cup of tea. So we're going to go ahead and take what I believe could be a top 5 running back in 2022, maybe even the number 1 running back in 2022, and that is Naji Harris. Now, obviously, when it comes to Naji Harris, there is a bunch of question marks. Who is going to be the starting quarterback there in Pittsburgh in 2022? Definitely up in the air. Probably not going to end up being Big Ben, obviously. How good is the offensive line going to be? How are things going to shift? But I do think that Naji Harris, the fact that he was able to succeed with that shit tier offense of line last year with the offense not looking too hot, I am very comfortable picking him there inside of the 2nd round here. So looking at the board here, we're not going to be taking Justin Fields, so we're just going to continue to wait at the quarterback position here. And if I'm being honest with you, I'm going to go ahead here and pair my quarterback with my tight end. Something that is pretty important in terms of best ball strategy as a whole is stacking. I have Lamar Jackson, and normally you want to go ahead and match that quarterback with his best receiver. So you say Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay, you get Rodgers, and then you go ahead and you pick Devonta Adams. You get a guy like Kirk Cousins. Maybe you're not all that excited about Kirk Cousins, but you can get Kirk Cousins and you can match him with Justin Jefferson. You can get Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. But in this scenario for the Baltimore Ravens, the best receiver on the team is their tight end. Mark Andrews had a fantastic 2021 campaign, and I believe he could do something very similar in 2022. He was putting up numbers regardless of the quarterback there, even when Lamar Jackson went down. It's very clear that he is one of the key focal points in this offense, if not the focal point inside this offense. So I do like going ahead and getting Mark Andrews there. Now, looking at our team, this is a pretty interesting build. We got Lamar Jackson, Naji Harris, as well as Mark Andrews. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. If Kirk Cousins was available, Mr. You like that, you like that, I definitely would have taken him there. But Justin Fields is a guy that I do think is going to take that next step up. I just didn't feel like with how my team was set up, where I have Lamar Jackson, who I'm very confident in, I don't necessarily think I have to go ahead and reach and take a guy like that. Deshawn Watson is in a very interesting situation because it seems like all of this legal stuff. Now, again, I'm as much of a lawyer, as Johnny Sins as well, right? Just not a lawyer. You've seen him play lawyer, though, if you're on the other tube. You know, we're watching this on the YouTube if you're on the other tube. But Deshaun Watson could be a legitimate top 5 quarterback. Is he going to play or not, though? That is definitely up in the air, at least to me. So that's what makes me a little bit nervous about Deshaun Watson. Now, Tua Tagovailoa, as a Miami Dolphins fan, everyone's going to say, oh, Nick, you're dick riding Tua Tagovailoa because he's on your favorite team. And he is on my favorite team, but I'm not necessarily dick riding him. I just think that he's going to look a lot better without Brian Flores and with an offensive-minded head coach in Mike McDaniel in Miami. So after we went with Mark Andrews, we see Justin Fields, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, A.J. Brown, Devonta Williams, Joe Mixon, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Ryan Tannehill. We also just got some breaking news inside today's video. I know I did kind of just cut off what I was previously saying, but Aaron Rodgers will be back in Green Bay via what Pat McAfee just said. So that is also some great news. So looking at the board here, I do want to take Tua, but I feel as though the value isn't amazing here. But the problem is in the Superflex League is if I don't take Tua, I am going to be down astronomical in terms of the quarterback situation there, in terms of quarterback. So I'm just going to go ahead and have to kind of force my hand there and take Tua Tagovailoa. There are some interesting quarterbacks later on in the drafts. Guys like Kiss and Titties Mitchell Trubisky, who I honestly think could be a starting quarterback in the NFL this season. So I'm pretty interested in guys like Mitchell Trubisky. Then there's also potentially, could Tom Brady come back to the NFL? That is also something you may want to consider. Now, maybe that'll be just a complete and utter waste of a pick, but I think there is still a chance that he ends up coming back. Now, Jordan Love is basically fucking buried. There's no reason to draft Jordan Love since we are going to be seeing Aaron Rodgers return, at least based upon what I just read. Is that 100% facts? Could that be cap? It definitely could be, but I do think that is something to monitor. Now, Matt Ryan is a quarterback that I'm also pretty interested in later on in the draft, but he is not a guy that we'd be looking at right here. Looking at the wide receiver position, since we don't have a single wide receiver, is probably where we're going to be going today, and I want to go with Deontay Johnson. I really think that he can be a top 12 quarterback here. The biggest question, or a top 12 wide receiver here, what I should say, but the biggest question here with Deontay Johnson, it's just like with Naji Harris, how will this offense look without Big Ben? Now, Big Ben looked like complete and utter fucking dog shit last season. He wasn't so bad to where it was hard to watch, but there were certain games where it looked like this guy had no idea what he was doing. He had no idea that he was playing quarterback in the NFL. So I believe things are going to look better there. But how much better is it going to be a huge step up? I'm not too sure. If it is Mason Rudolph, then me picking Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson is going to completely fucking blow up in my face. But if that is not the case, and it is maybe Malik Willis, one of these rookie quarterbacks, then that could be a step up. And Willis is going to be a guy that I want to go ahead and star here because I really do believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a pretty solid chance of picking him. Now, Mac Jones is a fine quarterback in the 5th round of a super flex league, but if you're in a 1 quarterback redraft league, a best ball draft, there is no way I am taking Mac Jones, because Mac Jones to me has virtually zero upside, because it's not that I necessarily think that he's a bad player or something, but he has no rushing upside at all. That is just not even in the cards for him, and he's just a guy that I don't see really finishing inside the top 12. Maybe he will be a top 15, top 16 quarterback next year, and that's all fine and dandy, but that does not excite me at all for fantasy football. You're never really going to have that humongous game where Mac Jones just drops the hammer down, just dicks down the opponent. That just typically is never going to happen for Mac Jones. Maybe one game, but to me, there's a chance that Tua potentially does that 5-6 games if Mike McDaniel is legit. Now, again, you're betting on Mike McDaniel being legit. You're banking on Tua taking that next step up, but I personally think that is possible. That's kind of just how I read that situation with the AFC East quarterback. So another AFC East quarterback, he already got taken, though. Did he just get taken? Yeah, that's Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is very interesting because I think he's a good player. The question is, will all the things click in his second year in the NFL? For the Jets, I think the Jets are going to end up being a bad team again, but does that mean that they are necessarily just a fucking cursed team, that they're not going to be able to figure anything out? I think they should be fine. I'm going to go ahead and do the electric slide over here so you guys can see my team a little bit better. I think that's how we're going to position myself on the camera for the rest of these drafts going forward. So I apologize if you guys wanted to see my team, I apologize. I guess I'm an asshole. Didn't have it set up correctly. So we got Lamar, Tua Tagovailoa, Naji Harris, Deontay Johnson, and Mark Andrews on the team so far. So looking at the Miami Dolphins wide receivers that we're going to want to be getting, Jalen Waddle obviously is long gone. But if we are looking for another wide receiver on Miami, I don't know if it's going to be Devonta Parker as the number 2 receiver there, because it seems pretty likely that they're going to look for either Calvin Ridley or Amari Cooper. But now that Calvin Ridley ends up just gambling on the fucking games, that's obviously something that is going to be a very, maybe not a touchy subject, but something that people are going to debate. Oh, is it fine to be betting on the games as a guy that plays in the NFL? To me, no. To me, no. I bet on the games. I think sometimes the game looks fucking rigged. Now, probably isn't rigged, but that even further makes it so that people may think that something is rigged. So we're going to actually take Amari Cooper right here. I'm very excited to get Amari Cooper because I think we're going to stack him with Tua. Also, shout out to one of my subscribers, Josh, who is in this draft. He messaged me that he's in this draft. So I think Cooper could be going to Miami. If he doesn't go to Miami, then I think he's probably going to end up as the one of the premier receivers on another team. So I think we still ended up getting some solid value. Another receiver that just falls in these drafts that makes virtually no fucking sense to me is Hunter Renfro. We saw how good he was last year. Derek Carr may not be the guy next year, but I still do think that he is in a very solid situation to succeed. So we're back up on the board. The running backs are going to get dicey the later we wait in the draft, but in a best ball draft, I like to really hammer in on the wide receiver position and wait on some running backs. We also have a very solid running back already in Naji Harris, so we're going to take the risk here on Malik Willis and then wait a lot longer to draft another quarterback here. Again, I really do think that he could be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and finding a starting quarterback with some rushing upside with a pretty solid arm in Malik Willis, to me, inside of the 7th round, just screams of a great pick. I think if they're Underdog, they do so many of these contests, right? Because on Underdog, there are just so many people that want to play these contests. The prize pools are so big that people want to get in. So I think if there's a big board but super flex version 2, say next month in April after the 2022 NFL draft, then I think we might have just gotten Malik Willis at a potential 2-round discount. He may easily be a 5th-round pick by the time you are drafting in April. So I think we did get a solid pick there. So looking at our roster construction, 3 quarterbacks, 1 running back, 2 receivers, and a tight end, I think here's when we're going to have to start hammering in on the wide receiver position. Then hopefully Mr. Kiss and Titties Mitchell Trubisky falls to us later so we can get him. And after I say that, a couple of seconds later, we see that Kiss and Titties Mitchell Trubisky does end up getting picked. How sad. But I found in these drafts, when I was just looking at the ADP before I hopped in here, that there's a lot of value later on in the drafts. There are some sneaky players later that you can get, like A.J. Dillon. Now, I don't think he's just going to instantly become the starting running back on the Green Bay Packers, but at this pick, this late in the draft, if Aaron Jones gets hurt or something, now again, you're not rooting for injuries, but if Aaron Jones was to get hurt, A.J. Dillon could legitimately be a top 5 running back in fantasy football, especially since Aaron Rodgers is actually going to be back with the team this year. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, now it seems like he has just lost everything, right? It seems like Clyde Edwards-Hilaire 2 years ago gets drafted at the end of the 1st round. He's on the high horse. They make it to the Super Bowl. They lose the Super Bowl, but hey, he'll be fine next year, and then he falls off the edge of the earth. The question is going to be, is he going to be able to hop back on the saddle and play better in 2022? That is certainly up in the air. James Conner, who knows if he will be back with the Arizona Cardinals, but I do still think he's a solid pick depending on where he ends up landing. Kareem Hunt is just getting slept on. People are just taking a fucking nap on Kareem Hunt, who could easily be not a top 12 running back, but a top 15-ish running back in a couple of games. Looking at the receiver position, we could get Hollywood Brown for that upside, those couple of games where this guy is just a smash play. And considering we do already have Lamar Jackson on the team, to me, that is going to be the pick right here. Go ahead and stack him with Lamar Jackson. Now, if I wasn't thinking that way, I would be a little bit interested in Brandon Cooks, who does seem to be a little bit up in the air if he's going to be in Houston back again this year, but I do like Brandon Cooks. Brandon Ayuk also kind of an interesting pick. Maybe he will become more in favor on the team with Trey Lance as the starting quarterback compared to with Jimmy Garoppolo. To me, that is entirely possible. So as we scroll around here, Robert Woods is also an interesting pick, but it does seem as though Odell Beckham Jr. will be back, but Odell should be back around November, and that does leave the door wide open for Bobby Trees to be the lead guy there, or not necessarily the lead guy there because of Cooper Kupp, but the number 2 guy, the second in command there. So I'm going to go ahead and get James Conner here, and then I'm going to hope that Kareem Hunt falls to me. I think James Conner's definitely a risk because we don't know which team he's going to be on in 2022. He may be back with Arizona, but I am pretty interested in him regardless, because he proves that when this guy is healthy, he is a legitimate running back in the NFL with top 10 fantasy football upside. Another interesting player to talk about here is Melvin Gordon, who went at the 101. I think Melvin Gordon is in not a great situation now because guess what? He's not even on a fucking team right now. Or he is technically on the Broncos, right? But I don't think he's going to be there next year. But he is in a situation where if he does go to another team, could easily be their number 1 running back and is going in the 9th round. Now, that is what is so interesting about doing drafts in March, in April, before a lot of these moves happen, because you can really kind of take these long shot guesses, and Melvin Gordon, maybe a 9th, 10th round pick now, but you look in August and he's, say, in a super flex league, maybe he's a 7th round pick. So you're getting this discount because maybe he moves to a different team. And that's why I think it is so fun to draft right now. A lot of people will be like, oh, why am I going to waste $10 fucking drafting right now? And it's because some of the people that win these big tournaments, these huge tournaments, they're making these draft selections in April, in March. So that's why I go ahead and do these things. So since we have Mark Andrews, I'm pretty confident that I don't need to take another tight end until later. Obviously, if Mark Andrews ends up getting hurt, then that's going to suck. But if any of these guys get hurt that you take in the top 3 rounds, you're basically kissing first place goodbye. But you should know that going in, obviously. That makes a lot of sense when you're in a contest with this many people to win just a huge amount of money. So if you guys have ended up enjoying thus far, we're about 20-ish minutes into this video. Not too sure how much stuff I cut out, but make sure that if you have ended up enjoying, make sure to hit that like button as well as that subscribe button. Again, guys, like I said, things are going to change on this channel, but please don't just run away. Don't get nervous. I'm still going to be here bringing you guys content that relates to regular fantasy football, to best ball as well. And then if you want just fantasy football stuff, sorry about that. Just subscribe to the Awesemo Fantasy Football YouTube channel. I'll be talking so much on there. There's already videos I posted recently on there for you guys. And I just hope that you guys like those videos. There's no way I'm ever leaving, right? I love fantasy football. I love best ball. I love all things NFL. So I'm always going to be here for you guys. And I really do appreciate all the support I've seen. Recently, I graduated college a couple of weeks ago. I've just never been more happy in my life than I have been recently. So I hope that you guys understand what's happening and that you're able to stay with me because I love all of you guys so much. Really, I do. I couldn't have kind of even seen something like this coming where my real job is to talk about fantasy football. I get paid to talk about fantasy football. If you told 14-year-old Nick, I'm 22 now, he would have not believed you. So I really appreciate all you guys, and I love you guys so much. I'll get back on into talking about the actual draft, but I really do appreciate all of you guys, and it's hard to even put into words how appreciative I am. So we're going to go with Kareem Hunt here. He is still under contract for another year this season. Obviously, Nick Chubb's the lead back on the team, but Kareem Hunt will have some games where he does really help out our roster, so that's why I want to go ahead and get him on my team. He's more of a safe pick, but hey, I think he is definitely a very valuable player here. So after we went with him came Allen Robinson, Chase Claypool, Drake London, and Kenny Pickett. Here we are going to go with a wide receiver, and we're going to go ahead and go with definitely taking a bit of a chance here, and we are going to go with the Ohio State University's wide receiver, Chris Olavey. This dude is fast as fuck like Lightning McQueen. I think if he fits onto one of these teams, like if he got drafted by the Chiefs or something crazy, if he goes to a team where he could potentially be the #1 wide receiver on the team, or maybe the #2 guy, obviously, if he goes to the Chiefs, he'd be the #2 guy there, but if he could just be one of the key players on an offense, I think that will do wonders for him, and I think he could be very solid. Now, another guy that I really like here in this range of the wide receivers is Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup is one of those wide receivers, or he is a wide receiver. Well, technically, let me retract what I just said. He was a wide receiver that I thought that the Dallas Cowboys were just going to say, bye-bye. See you later, pal. We're going to keep Amari Cooper, but instead, they are going to do the opposite. They're getting rid of Amari Cooper, and they are going to be keeping Michael Gallup, which is super interesting. I understand that Dak Prescott was a bit streaky last year, but at the end of the day, I still think that Michael Gallup is a very valuable wide receiver in fantasy football, and I think if Dak is able to figure things out, if he looks a little bit better, then this will be a steal of a pick. So I hope we are able to get Michael Gallup next time around. If not, we did get the upside play in Chris Olavey. So the very interesting thing about these rookie players, like I've been kind of emphasizing on, is a guy like Malik Willis, a guy like Olavey, their ADP could be drastically different. Now, we could have taken a stab at this and have been completely and utterly fucking wrong. I could draft Malik Willis in pick 75. Turns out, doesn't get drafted where you want. Seems like he's going to be sitting on the bench, and he moves to ADP 125. But there's also a chance that he moves up higher, and he's a lower round draft pick, meaning same thing with Chris Olavey. I pick him at pick 123. Maybe he ends up getting picked at pick 100, or maybe he goes to pick 150, depending on where he lands. That's just the fun thing about doing these drafts early. Obviously, we got sniped on Michael Gallup, but I did kind of expect that. Where is Christian Kirk going to end up going is also pretty interesting. Christian Kirk is a pretty solid wide receiver who has those games to be one of those guys that you may categorize as a best ball wide receiver, right? Because if you draft him in your redraft league, you're basically shoving your fucking thumb up your ass, trying to figure out when to fucking play this guy every couple of weeks, right? Because he has a big game. Maybe he has 2 big games in a row, and then you're like, oh, you know what? 2 great games in a row. Now let me start him. And then the guy just fucks you directly in the ass because he hasn't been consistent at all, has a couple of okay games, then has a great game, then you play him, and then he plays like shit. That's kind of what you get. It's the Christian Kirk experience. Juju Smith-Schuster, also an interesting player. Don't think he's going to be back with the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, but does that mean that he could potentially be the number 2 guy, the number 1 guy somewhere else? I think so, and that's kind of the fun part, again, about drafting before all of this shit shakes out, before we really know where all these guys are going to end up going. And another interesting thing about that is if you drafted yesterday, the last couple of days, Aaron Rodgers may have came at a slight discount because no one knew where he was going to end up going. Now, it does seem pretty clear right now that he is going to be the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. So we are in round 12 of this draft. There are 20 rounds, so make sure that you buckle in, you buckle on up so that we can get through this whole video. An idea that we talked about when this channel does transition to going from Notorious Fantasy to a different name is that we are going to potentially be doing these drafts live with you guys and then be cutting them up. So say you don't enjoy listening to my dumbass talk for 50 minutes on a video, you can just listen to the condensed 20, 15-minute version, and maybe that tickles your fucking fancy more than listening to me ramble on. Some of you guys just like listening to me talk. I talk about all this stuff. I try to have a fun time. I just realized my green screen's a little off. I probably smacked on into it, so I gotta go ahead and fix that a little bit. I do apologize if that made any noise, but it is what it is, right? We're already 25 plus minutes into this video. Not too sure how many of you guys are even still here, but I do love you guys all again so much. So it is kind of hard to follow along the whole draft, give a nice breakdown of every pick. Sam Howell, pretty interesting pick. Looked really good in 2020. In 2021, not so much. Pretty interesting, though. I'm interested to see where Mr. Mr. Tom Brady ends up getting picked. Here, I do like James Robinson. I think he's still going to be pretty involved on the team, but there's other running backs like that you can get later that I think have some upside like that. So we're going to go ahead and take Mr. Juju Smith-Schuster under the assumption that he's going to be gone from Pittsburgh. If he's back, that's fine as well, I guess, because we could potentially get the Malik Willis, Naji Harris, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster stack, but it's not something I am super loving because Juju has not looked great recently for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Golladay, William Fuller, 2 picks that you might have drafted in the middle rounds last year that completely bent you over the table and fucked you in the ass. We shall see this year if things change. Maybe we see Will Fuller actually play some games. Maybe we see Kenny Golladay not play like shit. Irv Smith was a guy that I was hammering in on last season. It looked like I was just beaten off or something right there, but a guy I was hammering in on last season. I was very excited about, didn't end up playing because he got hurt, but that is also interesting. And Gronk going this late makes absolutely 0 sense because I really think that he is going to get picked much higher, and I don't think he's going to retire. I actually think he's going to go to a different team. So with my thought process being that I'm going to take Gronk, maybe that's a swing and a miss and he ends up not playing this year, but that's my thought process on it. I'm genuinely surprised that Devonta Parker goes this late in drafts, not because I think he's a good player, but because I feel like he's probably the number 2 guy there in Miami, so I just don't understand why he's getting drafted that late. Gesicki already went. He was the guy that I was kind of looking to stack Tua with as well, but I'm fine taking Mr. Devonta Parker. Again, James Robinson, I think that his involvement is going to be lower when we see Travis Etienne come back, but James Robinson is still a solid running back, still pretty good. And if Etienne was to get hurt again, then James Robinson's a workhorse running back that I know is good. And I know that with Doug Peterson in the offense, that things are going to be much better than they were with that dumb fuck Urban Meyer. So I'm pretty excited about getting James Robinson. I don't think I'm going to be able to get him on my team in this draft, but I would be pretty excited as a whole to be able to get him. Looking at other running backs, we see guys like Chris Carson down here. Chris Carson, what a fall from grace for that guy, right? He was a guy that I was touting as potentially a top 12 running back last year. The guy just keeps getting fucking hurt. That dream seems to be dead. But this late on in drafts, another guy kind of like last year in Ronald Jones, Mr. Ronaldo Jones, was a guy that I liked a decent amount. I thought, hey, maybe he's better than Leonard Fournette. To me, the talent-wise, they are very similar, but it seems as though the team just likes Leonard Fournette more, and that's okay. And that's okay. Again, guys, in these best ball drafts, the wide receiver position is a much more important commodity in terms of best ball compared to the running back position, whereas in redraft, if you guys do your drafts, you'll notice the running backs go early and often, but here the wide receivers are the guys that are getting picked up off of the board much quicker. Just something different to note when you are comparing the two formats. At running back, I do think Darrell Henderson is pretty interesting. Not that I think that he's going to take over from Cam Akers, but I just feel like he's in a pretty solid spot. Raheem Mostert, there is some talking about him potentially going to Miami. The Dolphins trying to bring in some new guys there at the running back position. Jerick McKinnon looks like he's the best running back on the Chiefs. Who knows how that's going to transition, though, to next season. You can't really put too much emphasis on that. Just a couple of running backs that are going later that I think are important to note because we may want to just take them on our team. Gus Edwards also a solid running back. Looking at the board as a whole, though, quarterback has completely dried out. So if I wanted to take another quarterback, I'm basically just going to be taking the shot on maybe a guy like Taylor Heineke, who may just end up being the starting quarterback of the Washington football team next year. Doesn't seem super likely, but it is entirely possible. Darrell Henderson got picked. We could take a shot on Kyron Williams here, rookie running back. That could be our pick here, but I think we're just going to go with a wide receiver. Odell is going to be missing a lot of the season, so I don't think we will go that way. We're instead going to go ahead and take a shot on his teammate in Van Jefferson. That is a very big play wide receiver. He's probably going to have a bunch of games where he disappoints, but there's also not going to be too many games where he's able to eclipse a guy like Deontay Johnson, Amari Cooper. So when he has that big game, when he's able to get into the lineup as maybe one of our top 2 wide receivers or one of our flexes, then he's going to be putting up some huge points. So that's why we're going to go ahead and snag Van Jefferson there. And then we're going to probably just hop into the running back train here for a couple of picks. Here, if Kyron Williams is available out of Notre Dame, I am going to be ending up picking him. Not completely sold that he is going to be a guy that ends up being a workhorse running back in the NFL. Probably not, but when you're this late in the draft and you can snag a rookie with at least some talent, right? It's not like this is some talentless fucking hack in the 15th round. You might as well take that over a guy like Khalil Herbert, who I don't really even see touching the field much unless David Montgomery was to get hurt. Whereas maybe Williams goes into a situation, maybe he goes to Miami or something, and he ends up just being the starting running back. So looking here at quarterback, again, we're probably just going to end up going with Taylor Heineke, as I feel like he's just going to have, maybe starts a couple of games on the season. If you wait this long to take your 4th quarterback, then they're not going to end up being very good. That shouldn't really be a news flash, though. That would kind of make sense if you wait this long. So at tight end, if we're looking to get a 3rd tight end, towards the end of the draft, we're going to be looking for guys like David Njoku, who did get I think they franchise tagged him. He's back with the team. Robert Tonyan, Big Bob Tonyan, who was pretty solid last year for the Packers when healthy. Not amazing like he was in 2020 where he scored 11 fucking touchdowns, but he's still a guy that's going to be seeing some usage on the team. Gerald Everett. could also potentially move to a better spot. Janu Smith was a guy that was a humongous swing and a miss last year for a lot of fantasy analysts, a lot of fantasy players were touting him. They were kind of feeling themselves on Janu Smith, and then it ended up that you're just not that guy, pal. He wasn't getting the opportunities. So, hey, that was a miss. Adam Troutman looked pretty good towards the end of the season, so I think maybe we see him in a more increased role this year. If I was to take anyone, I would take Evan Ingram off the shot that maybe Daniel Jones takes this next step up with Brian Daboll as the starting quarterback there. Maybe he just ends up looking better, or not as the starting quarterback, as the head coach there. That's definitely possible. KJ Osborne, also a pretty interesting player. If Adam Thielen was to get hurt, Osborne does look pretty solid. McCole Hardman, always going to be that guy that you kind of just take in the late rounds and you're just praying to the fucking fantasy gods that he ends up having a couple of good games. Nico Collins, I also didn't have a tremendous 2020, but how can you have that great of a 2020 when, you're on the fucking Houston Texans and they have Davis Money Mills starting. They don't have Deshawn Watson. If it was Deshawn Watson, maybe we did end up seeing Nico Collins have a fantastic season. So that's kind of just interesting to note here. So where we're sitting right here, we're probably going to go ahead and snag another wide receiver in round 16. So we still got round 17, 18, 19, and 20. So we have 4 more picks after this one. So I think we're fine to take Devonta Parker here at this spot just to stack with Tua in case him and Parker just have this great connection, because him and Parker did play well last year. I understand that they're probably going to bring another receiver in. I understand that Jalen Waddle is the #1 guy there, but Parker is still not some shit tier receiver. Unless he's gone, of course, they get rid of him or something. I think he has a solid role here in Miami, and if he is gone and goes to another team, then he could have a solid role there as well. I think he's a pretty talented wide receiver. So I really want to get Devonta Parker here. And we do. I almost just accidentally took Raheem Mostert. So we were able to get him here. Now we're probably going to go quarterback because I kind of just want to have 4 on the roster, even if it's not some super exciting quarterback. I also do like Gardner as well. But he seems like he's stuck in a backup role, even though I really think that Gardner is still a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think he should be given the chance somewhere else to be the starting quarterback. It just doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Even though I think it should, right? There's a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL who Gardner Minshew is better than. That might sound a little bit crazy, but I think it's true. So we're going to have to draft some running backs here, maybe wait on the quarterback, because I think Gardner Minshew is also a fine pick. So here we got Nyheim Hines. We got Khalil Herbert, Raheem Mostert, Jerick McKinnon. I'm going to go with Kenyon Drake. I'm going to go with Drake. I'm not too I'm going to just... He is still signed with the Raiders. If he... Yeah, now again, you're anticipating maybe he leaves or something like that, but if he's healthy, good to go with the Raiders next year, then Drake is still a fine player. If Jacobs was to get hurt, then Drake does have a ton of value, so I'm fine taking those shots super late in the draft on a running back with the skill set, in my opinion, that Kenyon Drake has. To me, it's just a better shot than a guy like Keyshawn Vaughn, who to me is just buried in the Bucs depth chart. Sony Michel, pretty interesting as well. Then you get guys like J.D. McKissick, who are good, but will J.D. McKissick ever truly be given the opportunity that he was given in 2020? He wasn't given that in 2021. Who knows? Again, when you're this deep on in the draft, you're kind of just throwing these dart throws and hoping that if one of these guys hits, they are the reason why your team is able to make it so far and potentially take home the whole fucking pot and end up winning the whole thing. Let's go ahead here. And since we are already in the draft, though, we can just go ahead and go back here. Click on this. Click back on this. And then just click right here. And I'm going to tell you what the winning is. First place is $50,000. Second place, $20,000. Third, $10,000, $5,000. Even if you come in 8,000th, you're still going to get your money back plus $5. So I think this is a pretty solid tournament to enter. It is pretty fun to play on here. So let's see. Someone took Mono Man Sam. We definitely want to get another quarterback and probably a tight end, and then just take a shot on either another running back or a receiver. I do want Troutman. I just don't know if he's going to make it back to me. After that, there is just no one that even excites me at all. Just zero excitement to draft fucking Jared Cook in LA with Parham still there. Maybe I'll just draft Parham. Janu Smith just seems, not that he's washed, but he's just not the receiving tight end there, right? He's just not going to be seeing a bunch of targets. So I kind of don't want to be taking him. So I don't know. When you get this deep on in the draft, there's definitely some strategy to be had, right? If you're in love with Albert like you're not a big fan of the other tight end there in Noah Fant, maybe you want to take him. There are definitely some shots you can take. Mo Alley-Cox now without Jared Cook. Maybe a YOLO, you take him, and he ends up just having a fantastic season. That's possible as well. Wouldn't doubt that, but I'm probably just going to go ahead and take Troutman, who I just like a lot better, as long as he's able to make it back to me. And then we have, like, the last pick in the 20th round, so we're just going to be rambling on here for a little bit more time. So again, guys, if you have ended up enjoying this far, I know I was kind of like laying back, moving all around, as this is more of a relaxing video than me just hammering in on like the top 12 running backs going fucking hard for 25 minutes, right? This is more of a relaxed kind of vibe here. So I hope you guys have ended up enjoying this video thus far. Please make sure, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit all those buttons, and make sure you just, if you're new to the website, just make sure to use that code up top, deposit promo code AWESOMO, double your first deposit. Make sure you guys check that out. So of course, someone takes fucking Adam Troutman. So now we're sitting here like a cock, and we're just going to wait on Mo Alley-Cox, take him later. So I'm going to go with a quarterback here. You know, we're going to take Braxton Berrios, actually. Don't think he's going to be back in New York, but I think that he is actually not necessarily like he's going to be like a top-end receiver on a team, but I could see him, if he comes back to New York with the Jets, having like 2-3 solid games where he actually cracks my lineup. So we'll take him there. Again, when you're in the 18th round, you're just throwing shit against the wall and hoping that it sticks. So that's kind of my thought process on that. Then here, we're going to go ahead and take Gardner. I like him more. Bruh. What the fuck? So we're taking Taylor Heineke. Fuck it. I mean, he at least could be the starting quarterback of the Washington football team, but I can't believe Gardner just got sniped from me like that. I genuinely can't. I can't fucking believe it. I cannot believe it. That really hurt, to be honest with you. Made me cry a little bit. And then with our final pick, we're going to go tight end. We're going to get the boy Mo Alley-Cox. I'm just going to actually fast forward to the end of the draft, so that we're not here. This video is not like an hour long, but hope you guys have enjoyed this far. Boop. And luckily, as we cut back in here, we were able to get my boy Mo Alley-Cox, tight end of the Colts. Now, again, that's really just a move because Jack Doyle retired, and my hope is that Mo Alley-Cox is now locked and loaded as the starting tight end on the team. So here, we're going to go ahead and move myself a little bit, just push myself a little bit to the side again. Recap our team. So I went with the 4 quarterback, 5 running backs, 8 receivers, 3 tight end builds. We got Lamar, Tua Tagovailoa, Malik Willis, and Taylor Heineke. Our running backs are Naji Harris, James Conner, Kareem Hunt, Kyron Williams, and Kenyon Drake. Our receivers are Deontay Johnson, Amari Cooper, Hollywood Brown, Chris Olavey, Juju Smith-Schuster, Van Jefferson, Devonta Parker, and Braxton Berrios. Our tight ends are Mark Andrews, Rob Gronkowski, and Mo Alley-Cox. So let me know down below if you guys enjoyed watching this draft, what you guys took away from it, if you had a fun time, and if you, again, you want to, guys, if you want to sign up on the website, sorry about that. I just fucking had a brain fart right there. If you want to sign up on Underdog, make sure you use promo code AWESOMO, top of the screen. Deposit $100, get a $100 deposit match. If you want to deposit $50, guess what? You just get an additional $50. That's okay as well. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. I'll see you guys back. Today's Tuesday. We'll be back on Thursday with another banger video. Love you guys all. As always, guys. Good boy.